This is the last round of the reading for Kim. We will take the spread and turn it into a little story. Since it is Kim's story, she will take the lead in this reading. So on top of the spread is the significator, which represents you. That's the Queen of Cups.
Yes.
So now we go counterclockwise, and the first card we arrive at is the inauspicious Knight of Cups. The Knight of Cups, what it represents, how was that involved in your challenge? Or how is that involved in your challenge?
I think my over mothering and being the Queen of Cups, having my my child too dependent on me,
Mm-hmm.
and then having the stress, from it, and just the stress affects your health.
Yeah, and it also indicates that you were not prepared to deal with this kind of psychological aggression from your son and maybe also from your husband. First, your ex,
Yes.
and maybe in your childhood. So you were this sensitive, Piscean person, yeah, who usually retracts or hides when there's a conflict. And you had so many experiences where people, were aggressive towards you, and you did not deal with that properly until your psychological immune system was compromised. And maybe that's also then the reason why your physical immune system is compromised. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't deal with confrontation, I guess you could say.
This is important. The people are not to be blamed for your challenge. It's your
No.
weakness is to be blamed for your challenge, and that weakness you need to turn around and turn it into a strength.
Yeah. Yeah, I need to face my whatever issues come up and deal with it instead of just, accepting whatever comes and not doing something about it.
Yes. Okay, so the next card is the Queen of Swords, auspicious. What does that make you think of?
Well, it's very intellectual, the swords, and the Queen of Swords is very different from the Queen of Cups. She's she said like it is, and she's she can be cutting in the way she says things. She's very intellectual, and I think she's the opposite of what I am, and
Very good.
probably I need to embrace my Queen of Swords personality, or embrace that personality more and be more direct with people and say what has to be said instead of just accepting things that, situations that come along, and just be a lot more direct and stand up for myself more.
And maybe be a bit more combative.
Yes.
Okay. Next is the Four of Wands, grace, auspicious. The first highlighted card.
Four of Wands is stability.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Yes, it's stability because of the Four of Wands. They form a square, which is always stability. Very good, yeah. But it stands most of all, it stands for grace and on the spiritual plane. So it's the often mentioned influence of spiritual energies that help you along the way. So that's one of the main things you need to practice to become receptive to the graceful influence of the spiritual forces. And for that, of course, you need to study spirituality, you need to meditate, so you become more receptive and invite these forces to help you with your challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, so while on the intellectual level, you need to be a bit more competitive or combative. Yeah, towards the spiritual plane, you need to practice a graceful, receptive attitude.
And that's where the meditation and
Yeah, if you
spiritual work.
meditate, you put yourself into a receptive state, correct?
Yeah. I'm trying to ground myself and where the feng shui came in and just making things right at home. Probably the self-care part of it too. Making sure that I'm in a peaceful environment.
Okay, the next is the Six of Cups, auspicious, and the title is Decision.
That Six of Cups makes me think of, looking back maybe at how things were and accepting with decision, accepting that they're not the way they were, and making a decision to move on with the way things are now,
Very good.
and not being stuck in, how I felt before, how my health was before, but moving
Exactly.
on, making a decision to move on and work with what I have now.
Because as soon as you make a decision, you leave the past behind.
Yeah. And it doesn't help to sit and reminisce about, oh, my energy used to be, I used to have so much energy, and, thinking about things like that, but just moving on, making the decision to move on and move forward and work with what I have now.
All right, very good. So the next one is the Page of Pentacles. It's auspicious, and we think it stands for your daughter.
And she's got the Virgo energy. So I've been working on developing my relationship with her, spending more time with her. Since I've had this illness, she's wanted to have our relationship closer.
And did she ever say she want to help you with it?
Yeah, indirectly, she did say she wants to spend more time together and have quality time.
Okay. She has exactly the right vibes and the right attitudes that help to overcome this challenge, because she has the Virgo vibes. Okay. Then we have the Reason card, which is auspicious, meaning it's a key ability that will help you to overcome the challenge. And reason also means foresight.
Well, I think that means, me taking power with my situation and understanding why I'm going through this, the reason, and just taking control of it, because the Emperor is very powerful. So I think I need to take that energy.
Yes, the Emperor, as the name indicates, is in control.
Yeah, he's the top one.
But mind that his armor is passive. He has no aggressive weapons on him. The armor is really only there to protect him. Yeah, and armor means, for example, a psychic immune system, that you're able to deal with aggressive people. And it maybe even indicates the immune system on the bodily level. His armor, not the card.
Yes. Yeah, and I need to.
Yeah.
I need to protect myself, actually, with the illness.
Yeah. But you need to protect yourself with reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, not with drama, not with shouting, with getting angry, with reason. You need to reason everything through and find the proper response to whatever is trying to stress you out.
Yeah, because they know that stress is definitely bad for this disorder.
Yes, we discussed this in the last video, in the last reading.
Yeah.
All right. Then we have the Truth card, which is inauspicious, the High Priestess.
I'm not listening to my own intuition, I guess.
Yeah, but it's the Truth card. It's not the intuition card. But you're right, the two are connected. The High Priestess and the appears somehow again in the intuition card. So you're right, they are connected. But here the emphasis is on reality and on truth, not on guidance.
Mm-hmm.
So it means that, okay, I remember that we discussed that you need to understand the truth of your situation, which may have not been clear to you prior to your challenge.
Yeah, I'm learning from it. I'm learning a lot from it.
Okay, then the next is Two of Wands, which stands for ideation, and it is inauspicious.
Well, kind of,
What comes to mind when you look at that card related to your story?
well, I'm looking out at my imagining my future, and it's upside down. So I have to look out at my future with a more I have to be able to imagine it, not imagine it, but plan it
Yes,
and be realistic about it
yes.
and plan with a a
Yeah,
sensible plan.
yes, but this card says you need to formulate a clear idea about your future. The planning comes later. And maybe in your previous life, or previous life, before your challenge, maybe you did not do that. That's why it is
Yeah.
inauspicious, because it had bring about your challenge. You did not build your life on ideas, and that's very important. For example, you had the idea to become a nurse. You know, that's an idea, and you build your life according to that idea. Or
Yes.
the idea was, I want to divorce, and then you married another man. That was an idea, and this is like life changing. Ideas are really life changing because they're so.
Yes.
And now you need to formulate the right idea that overcomes your challenge. So you use the power of ideation, of formulating ideas to overcome your challenge. Okay, then let's move to the next card. It's the Life Regeneration Vitality card.
Yeah, that's like depression or just feeling down about it, I guess. Having trouble regenerating.
Yes, also because of your compromised immune system. So this card represents your present situation,
Mm-hmm.
and that's your struggle,
Yeah.
something you're struggling with and something you have to deal with.
My low immunity.
Yeah, which impacts your vitality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's tough because, I may need some treatment for that.
Mm.
And that's kind of life changing.
Okay, this is your problem, or the problem that comes with your challenge, low vitality. And the next card tells you how to deal with that. And the next card is the Eight of Wands, and the title is Goal, and it is auspicious. So what does it mean?
Move towards a goal.
Yes,
Get moving.
set a goal, how to deal with your vitality and work towards.
Yeah. It's a lot of energy in that card, and the Eight of Wands moving towards a goal. I've got to, what I've always done in the past is had a goal and moved towards it, but this is a little more difficult than most of my goals. It's a little different.
Yeah, it's challenging, yes, of course.
Yeah, very challenging, very
Yes,
difficult.
and mine, it's a spiritual card, and we're on the spiritual level of human expression. So this is a very important, very powerful card in this particular spread. The setting
Yeah.
of the goal and the intentional power behind the goal to move forward towards the goal.
Yeah.
You need to summon this power.
Yeah, that card does mean a lot because I have a tendency to feel just kind of like give into it some days and just go lay on the couch. Oh, I have no energy and not really feeling well, and it kind of leads into day after day, and instead of like taking that fire from the wands and getting up and getting going, I just kind of give into it sometimes.
So what about if that happens again? Why don't you take the card and look at it for 5 to 10 minutes to summon its power, and then maybe it will help you to get going, although you don't feel like it.
Yeah, I think that's a really important card for me.
Yeah. So you should work with this card, meditate with
Yeah,
it.
because that's, that's a big part of the problem. I've never had such a hard time working towards a goal before. Usually I can get excited about a new goal and really focus on it, but this is a big challenge, probably the biggest challenge I've ever had. No.
The excitement comes from the body. Okay, that's an
Yeah.
emotion. The body conjures it. So what this card say is you need to draw power from the spiritual plane. Yeah, the Four of Wands, that's grace. The Two of Wands, that's ideation, to formulate an idea that gives a life-changing idea that gives you a drive. And then the Eight of Wands, that helps you to work towards the goal. Yeah, you have to be receptive to these spiritual intentional forces, because you're lacking your bodily energies. So you really need to draw from the higher level.
Yeah. I keep going back to the Six of Cups. I think I keep going back to it where it's like, you're looking back at how you used to have energy and you used to be able to,
Mm.
attain goals easily, and now it's harder. So
Mm.
I have to make the decision to get away from that particular card.
Good
It
idea.
keeps drawing me in, you know. Oh, it used to be so easy to, do this and do that, and I had endless energy and I never took a nap, and it's more challenging now to make a decision to move towards a
Mm.
goal.
Okay. Then we have the Four of Pentacles, which means management, in particular practical management, because it's a pentacle card.
Yeah.
I think it sums up a few cards that we already looked at. That you need to manage your life in a practical way, considering all the helpful forces that are at your disposal. For example, spiritual grace, your daughter, the power of ideation, goals, and the reason card. And you need to manage that, and you also need to manage your weaknesses, in particular the low vitality.
Mm-hmm. And I always look at that card like management, keeping things in order. He's holding, he's kind of like,
Mm-hmm.
it's a four, so it's a stability, like, holding things down. It's not the most fun card. I don't know. That's the kind of personality it seems to have to me. It's work. It's management.
Right. I think to deal with things that are not fun is you need to establish habits.
Mm-hmm.
You do it every day at the same time, so you create habits, because the habits will save you when you don't have energy.
Yeah. And having a routine.
Yes, routine
But the
habit. Yes.
habits, if you don't have a routine, if you don't have that management where you have a routine, and when the routine gets thrown off, which happens here frequently,
Mm.
it just, everything just gets thrown up in the air, and it's, well, tomorrow,
Yeah, like a house of
tomorrow.
cards, right? Just blah 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 blah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a lot of work.
All right.
And then, yes.
So the next card is the Three of Wands, inauspicious, and that title of the card is context. And we had discussed this a few times. It's very important for you to exactly understand the context of your situation, and also remain within the context of your situation. For example, spiritual work is very important for you to overcome your affliction, but you should keep the spiritual work in the context of your challenge. Don't go beyond those boundaries, because it will really distract you. There's so much spiritual wisdom to acquire, so much to read, and this can very easily distract you from your goal.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's important for me because I have attention deficit. I told you I from childhood I had that. So it's hard for me to focus on the context of what I'm doing. I get very distracted, and yeah, I'll start reading about one thing, and then that'll make me curious about another thing, and
Yeah.
I get into too many things, and then I see some weeds in the garden, and I tend to, get distracted and not stick with the context of what I'm doing.
Yeah. And that's why the card is inauspicious.
Yeah, it's challenging.
All right. Next is the Moon card. Stands for evolution, the DNA, and Pisces. And it's inauspicious.
Yeah. I have a DNA mutation in my illness. That's interesting.
Yep.
Um,
I mean, this card, as we already identified, it represents your illness, your bodily illness,
yeah.
because the Pisces governs the lymphatic system, which is compromised. So, and it's inauspicious.
And I'm a Pisces, so
And you're a double Pisces. You're imbalanced.
yeah, I always feel like Pisces just don't fit in anywhere. It's weird.
Okay. So between the context, we have the context card, which means to stay in the right context. Then comes the Pisces card, the Moon card, inauspicious, which represents your CLL. And then comes the Knight of Swords, which is auspicious, which is an intelligent man who will help you. And remember, it was paired with the Two of Swords, somebody who explains to you the principles that pertain to your challenge.
My doctor.
Yeah, I actually thought about it. This guy, if it wouldn't be the Knight of Swords, this card would actually represent me, because I explained to you the principles of your challenge through this tarot reading. I have no
Well,
idea.
I asked you last time
Yeah,
about that because that's the way I saw it
yeah.
when it came up when we were talking about it. And couldn't you be connected to it in some way?
I cannot find a way to connect myself to this card.
How about on your astrology natal chart? Do you have anything in a house, any planets in a house or anything that could connect you to that?
No, I'm a double Scorpio, and my moon sign is Aquarius. Well, Aquarius is an Aries sign. Aquarius is very philosophical. Yeah, anyway, maybe it's me. Sometimes the cards maybe just don't fall correctly, but we can see from the spread or interpret from the spread, because this is exactly what I've been doing for you.
I know. And if you think about it, I don't know what my doctor's sign is. I have no clue. So who's to say, his sign could be a sign that has nothing to do with the Knight of Swords. So, it could be.
Yeah. Anyway, if you never meet a younger, intelligent, literate, educated person, then let's say it's me.
Okay.
This is something I will keep in mind for my next tarot readings. It seems the surrounding cards can alter the identification of the court cards. Another example is the Page of Pentacles, who represents Kim's daughter or child, although she's already grown up.